Have you ever wondered what separates a good story from a legend? What turns a novel into something like Harry Potter or The Lord of the Rings? Today, we're going to deconstruct that. We're going to find the blueprint for building a true epic.
And to do that, we're going to use a fictional fantasy story as our case study. Let's call it Starbound Hearts, the Lunar Pact. Now, the goal here isn't just to enjoy the story, but to really pull back the curtain on the strategic thinking it takes to turn a single book into a world-spanning saga.
And it all kicks off with this really powerful hook, a prophecy that ties a lunar healer to a shadow prince, forcing them to team up to save both their peoples from these ancient curses. We're talking high stakes right from the get-go. So here's our game plan. First, we'll dive into the original story, this world of light and shadow. Then we'll put ourselves in the author's shoes and face their big dilemma. After that, we'll explore two key strategies: forging the past with prequels and expanding the universe with sequels. And finally, we'll boil it all down into one powerful epic formula. Okay, first up, let's get to know the world of Starbound Hearts. At its heart, it's a story about forbidden love, ancient curses, classic fantasy romance with a big magical twist. So this world is basically split right down the middle. On one side, you've got Elara Moonwhisper and her people, the lunar healers who get their power from the moon. And on the other side, there's Kael Darkstorm and the Shadow Clans, who are trapped by this generational curse tied to darkness. So what kicks everything off? Well, a mysterious sickness starts to hit the kids from both sides, and it turns out Elara's own elders actually caused it by stealing a sacred plant. But of course, the Shadow Clans get the blame. The only way out? You guessed it, an old prophecy that says only Elara and Kael working together can fix things. And the story wraps up pretty neatly. Elara and Kael figure it out, they forge this lunar pact, the curse breaks, and their people are saved. It's a really satisfying, self-contained ending. So the book is done, the curse is broken, perfect ending. But this is right where the author faces a huge dilemma. How do you go beyond just one story? This is where a personal tale becomes an epic challenge. This is the question, isn't it? What comes next? The characters did what they were supposed to do. Is that it? Is the story actually over? This is the real puzzle. It's not about just writing another book. It's about how you strategically transform a complete story into a massive universe, a single tale into a saga that can sit on the shelf with the all-time greats. One of the most powerful ways to make a universe feel bigger is to actually go backwards. Prequels aren't just extra stories, they're about building a deep foundation of myth and history that makes the world feel like it's been around forever. So let's game this out. Prequel idea number 1, the first Moonwhisper. This would be the story of the original Lunar Healer and Shadow Prince, the ones who were there when the curse first began, centuries ago. And here's where it gets really clever. The big twist in this prequel is that the curse from the first book, it wasn't a punishment. It was actually a magical shield created to protect them from an even worse enemy. I mean, wow, that one move instantly gives your world that ancient, epic feel, the kind of historical depth you see in something like Tolkien's Silmarillion. Okay, here's another prequel strategy. This one is less about giant myths and more about messy, character-driven politics. This story would show the events leading up to the big conflict, but from the perspective of the supposed villains. What this does is just brilliant. It completely gets rid of pure good and evil. All of a sudden, you have betrayal, political drama, and motivations that actually make sense. It creates those fascinating shades of gray rivalries that make worlds like the Houses of Hogwarts feel so real and complex. All right, so if prequels build depth by looking back, sequels build scale by looking forward. The trick to a great sequel is to raise the stakes, to go from a local problem to something that threatens the entire world. So, sequel idea number 1. You introduce a huge new enemy from the outside. Now that Elara and Kael have united their powers of light and shadow, their magic is like this giant beacon, and it's just attracted the attention of a hostile empire, the Solar Legion. I mean, this is a classic move, right? You bring in your Dark Lord antagonist, your Sauron or your Voldemort. And just like that, the map gets bigger, the stakes go from a local curse to a world war, and the whole genre of the story shifts from romance to an epic conflict. Now, another sequel strategy is to go from global
all the way to cosmic. This idea takes a tiny detail from the first book, like how the moon's shadows look like a phoenix, and reveals it was actually some massive cosmic level foreshadowing.
And with that one change, a personal journey becomes a world-shattering destiny. Elara is not just a healer anymore. She's the host for a cosmic god. And that sickness from book 1, turns out it was just a symptom of this rebirth. The stakes aren't just global anymore. They are literally astronautical.
Okay, so we've looked at going backwards to add depth and forwards to add scale. So what have we learned? What are the core ingredients we can pull from all this to create a formula for a modern classic? Well, it really seems to boil down to these 3 things. First, deep lore. You take small details, like a simple pattern, and blow them up into something huge, like a whole runic language. Second, global scale. You have to break out of that first setting and show us a wider world with different kingdoms and cultures. And third, moral complexity. You have to move past simple good versus evil. Every side needs motivations that we can actually believe in. And this is the essential takeaway. Building an epic isn't just about making the story longer or throwing in more fight scenes. It's a deliberate strategy of adding layers of history, politics, and morality that turn a simple map into a world that feels vast, ancient, and absolutely real.
When you do all this, you're not just telling a story anymore. You're weaving this rich, complex tapestry, which kind of leaves us with one final question to think about. What do you think is that one secret ingredient, that one thing that truly turns a great story into a timeless legend?